Hello everyone, I'm Rajita, faculty of Next Fellow. So today we are going to learn a very clinically very important topic, that is the inguinal canal. So which is present in the lower part of anterior abdominal wall. So inguinal region, it is named because this area is the weakness of the anterior abdominal wall due to the penetration of testis and the spermatic cord in males and round ligament of uterus in females during embryonic development. So there are two openings, apertures within this canal, making the passage between two openings is called as the inguinal canal, which is the weaker part of inguinal region. So here is the deep inguinal ring. So this one is the deep inguinal ring. So deep inguinal ring is an opening in the fascia transversalis. So this is the fascia transversalis. Anterior to deeper most is the fascia transversalis. Deep to fascia transversalis you are seeing extraperitoneal connective tissue and peritoneum of abdomen. And anterior to the fascia transversalis we have got transversalis muscle, and next is the internal oblique muscle and then external oblique muscle. Anterior to the external oblique muscle, it is further covered by superficial fascia and anterior abdominal wall, that is skin of the anterior abdominal wall. So the deep inguinal ring, it is an aperture present in the fascia transversalis, which is an oval-like opening, and it continues with the inguinal canal as the internal fascia. So this fascia transversalis, it continues as the internal fascia of the structures passing through the inguinal canal. Next, about the superficial inguinal ring. So here this opening through which you can see the spermatic cord is coming out. This is the superficial inguinal ring. So superficial inguinal ring, it is a defect in the aponeurosis of external oblique. So this white color part what you are seeing is the external oblique aponeurosis. So the aperture seen in the external oblique aponeurosis, which is located lateral to the pubic tubercle, that is the superficial inguinal ring. And inguinal canal is obliquely oriented. So if you see the canal in between them, so this canal is the inguinal canal, which is obliquely oriented. So that is it ends in the it begins in the deep inguinal ring and ends in the superficial inguinal ring. Inguinal canal transmits the spermatic cord in males. So we can see this one is the spermatic cord in males or round ligament in females. So the inguinal canal also transmits some blood vessels, lymphatics and genital branch of genitofemoral nerve in both males and females. So first talking about this inguinal ligament, which is otherwise called as Paupart's ligament. So this ligament, it is the coiled lower border of aponeurosis of external oblique muscle. In previous image we saw the external oblique muscle, right? Aponeurosis, the same aponeurosis, it gets turned, it gets coiled to form the inferior border of inguinal canal. So medial part of the inguinal ligament, it forms the inferior border of inguinal canal, and lateral two-thirds of the inguinal ligament, it goes, and here you can see its attachment with the anterior superior iliac spine laterally, and medially it attaches to the pubic tubercle and it forms the floor of inguinal canal. Let's talk about the modifications of external oblique muscle. So modifications of external oblique, in previous image we saw the inguinal ligament, then lacunar ligament, which is otherwise called as Gimbernard's ligament, pectineal ligament, that otherwise called as Cooper's ligament. So here we know this is the inguinal ligament. So the inguinal ligament modifies to form the lacunar pectineal ligament and also external spermatic fascia as well, which is surrounds the spermatic cord. And reflected inguinal ligament is also associated with this inguinal ligament. It is formed by the fibers derived from the medial portion of the inguinal ligament. And lacunar ligament, it runs upwards over the conjoint tendon. Conjoint tendon I will show in the next slide. and conjoint tendon to end as the linea alba. So medial most here we know is the linea alba will be there attached to the in the center. It is present in the abdomen where all the muscles will insert into the linea alba, abdominal muscles. So lacunar ligament, it represents the medial expansion. So you can see here this triangular one, it is the medial expansion and of the inguinal ligament to the pectineal line of pubis. So here is the pectineal line. This one is the pectineal line of pubis. So this lacunar ligament, it forms the medial border of the femoral ring and floor of inguinal canal as well. So if you see, here will be the femoral ring, which is the medial most compartment of the femoral sheath, which continues into femoral canal through which femoral hernia happens. So this lacunar ligament, it forms the medial boundary of the femoral ring. And ligament of Cooper, otherwise called pectineal ligament, it is the strongest fibrous band that extends laterally from the lacunar ligament. So you can see here, so this one you can see the extension of the lacunar ligament as ligament of Cooper. So it is a strong fibrous band which extends laterally from the lacunar ligament along the pectineal line of pubis. You can see it is along the pectineal line of pubis. So next, moving on to this conjoint tendon. What is this conjoint tendon? Conjoint tendon, it is formed by the aponeurosis of internal oblique and transversus muscle. So here you can see this is the transversus abdominis muscle, and the superficial to transversus abdominis muscle is the internal oblique muscle. So both these muscles, they conjointly to form conjoint tendon. And medially we can see the insertion of rectus abdominis muscle as well. So this conjoint tendon, it descends behind the superficial inguinal ring and strengthens the posterior wall and the medial half of the inguinal canal. So that is about the conjoint tendon, and we saw the lacunar ligament is related to this conjoint tendon. Next, moving on to surface marking of inguinal canal. Inguinal canal, we know it is an oblique passage. It is not a transverse. It is an oblique passage, and in the lower part of the anterior abdominal wall, situated just on the medial half of the inguinal ligament. The medial half of the inguinal ligament, it is located, and it is about the length of this inguinal canal, it is about 3.75 centimeters. It is around 3.75, and some say it is around the 4 centimeters. You can make from medial to lateral end, it is around 3.75 centimeters, that is 1.5 inches long, and it is directed downwards, forwards and medially, extending from the deep inguinal ring to the superficial inguinal ring. So the deep inguinal ring is an oval opening in the fascia transversalis, and it is situated 1.2 centimeters above the mid-inguinal point. So this here is the deep inguinal ring, which is located 1.25 centimeters above the mid-inguinal point, immediately lateral to the stem of inferior epigastric artery. So here will be the inferior epigastric artery. So just lateral to the inferior epigastric artery, we have this deep inguinal ring. Next, about the superficial inguinal ring. Superficial ring, you can see it is a triangular opening. This one is like a triangular opening, which is a triangular gap present within the external oblique aponeurosis, and the shape of it is almost like an obtuse triangle, and it is present just lateral to the pubic tubercle. So this opening is present just lateral to the pubic tubercle. So this is how you draw the surface marking, and you have to join these openings by two parallel lines with the width of 1 centimeter of distance. Let us have a look on the boundaries of this inguinal canal. So anterior wall, we know the inguinal canal is not a transverse passage, it is an oblique passage. So because of the oblique passage, anterior wall of it on its whole extent, it is formed by the skin and superficial fascia. And just beneath it, the whole of the anterior wall, we can see it is formed by the external oblique aponeurosis. And anterior wall partially, that is on the lateral one third, we can see the fleshy fibers of internal oblique muscle. Fleshy fibers of internal oblique muscle. So these are the structures forming the anterior wall. Posterior wall on its whole length, it is formed by the extraperitoneal connective tissue, and beneath it will be the parietal peritoneum, which is present on the whole length, and also the fascia transversalis. We can see this blue line till here. So whole of the posterior wall, these three structures are present in the whole of the posterior wall. That is fascia transversalis, and then extraperitoneal connective tissue and parietal peritoneum. And additionally, the medial two-thirds, it presents a conjoint tendon. So we can see here, this is the conjoint tendon present only on the medial two-thirds of the posterior wall. And also the reflected part of inguinal ligament. Just before slide we saw what is the reflected part of inguinal ligament, and also over the lateral one third of interfoveolar ligament. So these are the structures forms the posterior wall of the inguinal canal. Next, moving on to the roof of the inguinal canal, it is formed by the arched fibers of internal oblique muscle. So here it is a schematic image showing the sagittal section. So the roof of it is formed by the arched fibers of internal oblique muscle, and also transversus abdominis muscle. Transversus abdominis muscle. So these two muscles will form the roof of the inguinal canal. Then the floor of the inguinal canal, that is the inferior wall, we can see it is formed by the reflected part of inguinal ligament. So that is the medial and medial part of the inguinal ligament, which is grooved on the upper surface to form the floor. So within the groove, we have got the spermatic cord in males and round ligament in females. And medial end of the inguinal canal, it is ended by the lacunar ligament. Lacunar ligament we saw, which is present on the medial most part of the inguinal ligament, which is triangular like, which is also the modification of external oblique muscle. Next, about the contents of the inguinal canal. The main content in males, it is the spermatic cord, or in females the round ligament of female. So that is the chief content. Apart from that, even the ilioinguinal nerve. So here is the spermatic cord. In males and females, it is the round ligament. Ilioinguinal nerve. Ilioinguinal nerve, it enters through the interval between the external and internal oblique muscles. So here is the external oblique and this is the internal oblique. So the nerve enters into the inguinal canal between these two muscles by piercing between these two muscles. So that is the ilioinguinal nerve. It doesn't enter through the deep inguinal ring. It enters in between. The other nerve is the genital branch of genitofemoral nerve. So genital branch of genitofemoral nerve, it is present along with the spermatic cord. It is present, passes from the deep inguinal to the superficial inguinal ring along with the spermatic cord. So these three are the important contents of inguinal canal. Next, about the clinical applications, that is clinical anatomy. We know that inguinal region is the weaker part of the anterior abdominal wall, which is prone to inguinal hernia. Inguinal hernia, it occurs in two varieties. One is the direct inguinal hernia and indirect inguinal hernia. So how to differentiate between the inguinal hernia from femoral hernia? Inguinal hernia lies superior medial to the pubic tubercle and enters the scrotum. It enters inside the scrotum. You can see this is the one side of that. So it enters inside the scrotum in males. Whereas femoral hernia, it lies inferolateral to the pubic tubercle. So Inferomedial to the pubic tubercle is the inguinal hernia. Femoral hernia is the inferolateral to the pubic tubercle. So pubic tubercle acts as a landmark to differentiate these two hernias for the surgeons to assess. And superficial inguinal ring is the defect in the external oblique muscle. We know that. So superficial inguinal ring is the hiatus for the aponeurosis of external oblique, and it is present just above and lateral to the crest of the pubis. And conjoint tendon, it is formed by the fusion of internal oblique and transversus abdominis muscle. So that is about the superficial inguinal ring. And deep inguinal ring, it is the deficiency in the fascia transversalis, and that is present oval-like opening within the transversalis fascia above the mid-inguinal point. Then the lacunar ligament, it is forms the floor of the inguinal canal and not on the posterior wall. So lacunar ligament, it is present on the medial end of the inguinal canal, and it is also the forms the boundary for the femoral ring. So talking about the indirect oblique inguinal hernia, so where when the hernia occurs through the deep inguinal canal, and that is from the deep inguinal ring, you can see here the intestines are entering through the deep inguinal ring and comes out through the superficial inguinal ring, that is called as indirect hernia or oblique hernia, and it lies lateral to the inferior epigastric artery. We know the deep inguinal ring lies lateral to the inferior epigastric artery. So this hernia, you can see it protrudes through the deep to the superficial inguinal ring. And again we have this indirect inguinal hernia as complete and incomplete inguinal hernia. Complete where the hernia passes through the superficial and reaches the scrotal sac. You can see here, here it demonstrates the complete inguinal hernia where it is entering completely into the scrotal sac. Whereas incomplete inguinal hernia, the hernia does not pass through the superficial inguinal ring, but it remains somewhere above the ring, that is within the canal it is present. So that is about the indirect inguinal hernia. And if we see the coverings of this type kind of hernia from outside inwards, it is formed by the skin. Then it deep to the skin is the dartos muscle, which is a layer of scrotum. Then external spermatic fascia, scremaster muscle and its fascia, and internal spermatic fascia, extraperitoneal tissue, peritoneal sac. So these are the layers from outside inwards in a deep, that is complete or incomplete indirect inguinal hernia. Next, we shall move on to direct inguinal hernia, where the hernia occurs through a triangle called as Hesselbach's triangle. Here it is shown. This is the blue colored border one is the Hesselbach's triangle, which is a schematic image for you all to understand. And here we can see this otherwise called as inguinal triangle as well, and it lies medial to the inferior epigastric artery. So you can see here, this is the inferior epigastric artery. So it lies medial, whereas the indirect inguinal hernia, it lies lateral to the inferior epigastric artery, because deep inguinal ring lies on the lateral to the inferior epigastric artery. So this is the major difference to differentiate direct from indirect inguinal hernia. So further, this direct inguinal hernia also we can divide into two varieties. One is the medial direct hernia and the other is the lateral direct hernia. Medial one, it is present medial to the obliterated umbilical artery. So within the Hesselbach's triangle, we have got an obliterated umbilical artery. So hernia to the medial to this obliterated umbilical artery is called as medial direct inguinal hernia, and if it is lateral to the obliterated umbilical artery, it is the lateral side, lateral one. So the direct inguinal hernia may be either medial or lateral, whereas indirect inguinal hernia can be complete or incomplete. So these are the varieties. So femoral hernia, the main differences you should note on, which are the high yielding points for your exam point of view, how to differentiate between femoral hernia and inguinal hernia, and which are the silent features on each kind of hernia, we will see now. So femoral hernia, the intestines may enter the femoral ring here, and through the femoral ring and enter into the femoral canal and reach the thigh region and lie on the inferolateral aspect of pubic tubercle. So this point to be noted here. It is present on the inferolateral aspect of pubic tubercle. And femoral hernia, femoral vein lies lateral to the femoral ring. So if you might have seen the femoral triangle in lower limb, so you can go back and see that video and find out laterally the femoral canal, lateral to it, femoral vein is present within the femoral sheath. Then most medial content of the femoral triangle is the inguinal lymphatics. So deep inguinal lymph nodes are present on the most medial. Then femoral nerve lies outside the femoral sheath, that is lateral to the femoral sheath. Femoral hernia lies inferolateral to the pubic tubercle and enters the thigh region. This point to be noted. And then the arrangements of the structures from medial to lateral are inguinal lymphatics, then femoral vein, femoral artery, and lateral most outside the sheath is the femoral nerve. Next, about the inguinal hernia. Inguinal hernia, inferior epigastric artery acts as a landmark, and the inguinal hernia enters the rectus sheath, and it is the landmark for differentiating between the direct and indirect inguinal hernia. So we know that indirect inguinal hernia lies lateral to the inferior epigastric artery, whereas the direct inguinal hernia through the Hasselbalch's triangle lies medial to the inferior epigastric artery. And indirect inguinal hernia occurs in young adults, and intestine may pass through deep inguinal ring and laterally to the inferior epigastric artery, which enters through the superficial inguinal, comes out through the superficial inguinal ring to reach the scrotum. Whereas the direct inguinal hernia, it occurs in elderly patients because of weaker lower part of the anterior abdominal wall. So intestines may pass medial to the inferior epigastric artery and enter the scrotum. And inguinal hernia, whether it is direct or indirect, it lies superomedial to the pubic tubercle. This point to be noted. So femoral hernia lies inferolateral to the pubic tubercle, whereas inguinal hernia lies superomedial to the pubic tubercle. So these are the salient points which you have. So thank you. This completes the most important topic, that is the inguinal canal.